This conference will now be recorded.
So today we will discuss about database security and privileges. So why this required? Because if every user has all privileges, so he can perform many things. So for that, Oracle has given user-wise privileges. So to perform the administrative task on Oracle database DBA, we required some specific privileges within the database and possibly in the operating system of the server on which the database basically run, and DBA should ensure that database administrator account is tightly controlled. So in that we have database administrator operating system account, and we have the administrative user account. So database administrative account, operating system account, basically to perform many of the administrative duties for a database. So you must be able to execute operating system command. And in administrative user account, Oracle database provides several administrative user accounts that are associated with administrative privileges. Okay, so in database operating system account, basically to perform uh, many of the depending on the operating system on which the database is running, you need an operating system account or ID to gain access to the operating system account. Okay, so your operating system account might require operating system privileges or rights that database user do not require. Suppose for Oracle database software installation be required. Okay, and you do not need the Oracle database file to be stored in your account. So you should have access to them. So Oracle has given administrative user accounts. These are system, sys backup, sys DG, sys KM, and sys rack, and the DBA role. So in user account, basically all the user have special privileges to administrator areas of the database. Suppose you want to create a table in other schema, so you required create any table. You want to alter some sessions, you required alter session privileges, and you required execution of the package which is owned by sys schema. So you required the privileges, and sys is basically when you create an Oracle database, the user sys is automatically created with all the privileges. And system is also when you create an Oracle database, the user system is also automatically created and granted the DBA role. Please remember. And sys backup, sys DG, sys KM, and sys rack. So when you create an Oracle database, the all the users are automatically created, and to facilitate separate operation of duties for database administrator. Like if you want to do a backup, you require a sources backup will do that. If you want to perform some data guard, so sysdga will do that. So like that, and you want to perform rack operations, so sysrack. And DBA role is basically predefined role which is automatically created with every Oracle database installation. So this role basically contain most database system privileges. Therefore, DBA role should be granted only to actual database administrator. So please remember this. So as I said, these are the things, user accounts which are automatically created, like sys systems, sys backups, sys DG, and all. So Oracle recommend that you create at least one additional administrative user and grant appropriate privileges for performing daily administrative tasks. Do not use sys and system for this purpose. Okay, and both Oracle installer and DBCA prompt for sys and system password, and do not accept default password. So that is the consideration which you do. And if we are going into sys, so already say that it is automatically created, and all of the base table and views for the database dictionary are stored in the schema assist. So these base tables and views are critical for the operation of Oracle database. So to maintain the integrity of the data dictionary, tables in the sys schema are manipulated only by the database. So they should never be modified by any user or database administrator, and no one should create a table in schema of user sys. Okay, but you can change the storage parameter of the data dictionary setting if it required. Okay, so please take care of that, and ensure that most database users are never able to connect to Oracle database using the sys account. So you should take care of that. You should means DBA should take care of that. And for system, as I said, when you create Oracle database, user system is automatically created and granted the DBA role, and system username is used to create additional tables and views that display administrative information, and internal tables and views used by various Oracle database operator options and tools, and never use the system schema to store table of interest to non-administrative user. Okay, now come to these new user which comes in latest version like 12c onwards. These user comes. So sys backup, as I said, it will facilitate backup and recovery operation. Okay, and sysdg facilitate data guard operations, and syskm facilitate transparent data encryption key store operation, and sysrack facilitate rack operation. Okay, and the sysrack privileges cannot be granted to the database user, and it is not supported in a password file. So please remember that. And it is required for clusterware agent actually, and the sysrack is only used for Oracle agent of the Oracle clusterware to connect to the database using operating system authentication. So always this is the interview question. Okay, an interviewer can ask, can we use a password file for sysrack? So you can say no. We can use only operating system authentication. Password file is not supported. Okay, and each of this account basically provides a designated user for new administrative privileges, like sysbackup account provides user sysbackup administrative privileges. SysDG account provides SysDG administrative privileges, and SysKM account SysKM administrative privileges. Okay, so you can create a user and grant to that user of these privileges. Excuse me. And to use one of these administrative privileges, a user must exercise the privileges when connecting to a database. Yesterday's session, we see that connect, suppose Ram as sysbackup, connect Ahmad as sysdg, connect Gopi as sysksm. So like that, you can connect by these privileges. Got it? And can we drop these user account? Yes, guys, please answer. Okay, perfect. These user accounts cannot be dropped. These user accounts are schema only account. So they are created without password. So you can assign password to these user account whenever you want them to be authenticated. Okay. Now DBA role, as I said, it is automatically created with every Oracle database installation, and this role contains most database system privileges. So therefore, DBA role should be granted only to actual database administrator, and the DBA role does not include the sysdba, sysoper, sysbackup, sysdg, or syskm system privileges. Okay, so this is another interview questions. Okay, and these are administrative privileges that allow on administrator to perform basic administration tasks, just like creating the database and instance, startup and shutdown. Okay, clear? Now come to database administrator authentication. So please let me know how many types of authentications we have. Another question. Any idea, guys? You get my question? Okay. I think two via database level and password file. Ahmad. Okay. Okay. I will answer later. So as a DBA, you perform, as I said, special operations like starting a database or shutting down a database. So database administrator require a secure authentication schema. So in that we have administrative privileges, and we have options authorized by administrative privileges. We have authentication method for database administration, And we have using operating system authentication, using password file authentication. Okay, so administrative privileges that are required to perform basic operation, and options authorized by administrative privileges. So each administrative privileges authorize a specific set of operations. I will discuss later. And authentication method, basically database administrators can be authenticated with account password, with operating system authentication, with password file, and with Oracle internal directory based authentication. So you get the answer of my questions, Ahmad. So we are four types, right? Account password, operating system authentication, password file authentication, and Oracle Internet Directory authentication. And operating system authentication, basically special group we have, or we should create, we do not pass the username and password. Okay, so this is known as operating system authentication. Like we are connecting connect slash as sysdba. So we are not passing username, we are not passing password, so that is operating system authentication. And password file authentication, you can use password file authentication for Oracle database instance, and can we use for ASM instance also? Another questions. Password file authentication can we use for ASM instance? Yeah, guys, please quickly answer. Only one guy answer. What else? Yes, we can. So the password file for an Oracle database is called a database password file, and the password file for Oracle ASM is called an Oracle ASM password file. Okay, so please remember this point. Now, administrative privileges. So as I said, these are the schemas also, and these names are also as a privileges. So don't get confused. So we have sysdba, sysoper, sysbackup, sysdg, sysksm, sysrack. So these are the privileges. So excluding the sysrack privileges, grant these privileges to user depending upon the level of authorization they require. Okay, so sysrack privileges we cannot grant it to the user. It is only used for Oracle agent of Oracle cluster, where to connect to the database using operating system authentication. So please remember this. And each starting with 12.1, sys backup, sysdg, and syskm administrative privileges are available. From release 2 means 12.2, sysrag privileges comes. Okay, so each privileges has some authorized operation. So as you can see on my screen, it is showing. So these administrative privileges basically allow access to database instance even when the database is not open. So we can control these privileges outside of the database. So for that we have operating system authentication, we have password file authentication, and we have directory based authentication. Okay, so these privileges can also be thought of as types of connection. Okay, suppose you have the sysdba privileges, then you connect to the database by specifying as sysdba clause in the connect command. Got it? Yesterday we did that, right? Connect slash as sysdba. Now, what sysdba can do? Sysdba perform startup and shutdown. SysDBA perform alter database means you can alter the database, go to open stage, you can mount stage, you can back up, you can change the character set, you can create the database, you can drop the database, you can create the SV file, you can alter the database archive log, you can alter the database recover, and you can also include a restricted session privileges. Okay, so this is most powerful administrative privileges. So don't give it to any normal user. And when you are giving sysoper privileges, so you can perform a startup and shutdown. You can create SV file. You can alter the database, open, mount, or backup. You can alter database archive log. You can alter database recover. Okay, but complete recovery. Any incomplete recovery like until time, change, cancel, control file, you need to connect as sysdbs. Sysoper cannot do that. Okay, and it includes the restricted session privileges also. Excuse me. Okay, and sys backup privileges basically perform backup and recovery operations. Okay, from rman tool or from sql star plus tool. And sysdg, as I said, it perform data guard operations, and you can use these privileges with data guard broker or dgmrl command line interface. Just like sql star plus, we have dgmgrl command line interface in data guard. And syskm privileges is for transparent data encryption key store operation, and sysrag is basically for rag operations. Okay, so when you connect with these administrative privileges, so you connect with current schema that is not generally associated with user name. So for sysdba, the current schema is sys, or sysoper, the current schema is public. Okay, for sysbackup, sysdg, and sysrack, the current schema is sys for name resolutions. However, the current schema for syskm is syskm. So please remember these points. And when you connected with an administrative privileges, you connect with specific session user. When you connect as sysdba, the session user is sys. Already said that. Okay, so please remember that. Now authentication. Already I have said we had account password. We have uh, operating system authentication, we have password file authentication, and we have Oracle Internet Directory authentication. Okay, so authentication methods for database administration. So we have non-secure remote connection. We have local connection and secure remote connections. Okay, now yeah, I did that, so I'm not going into that. And also keeping in mind that password is are case sensitive. Okay, and sysrag privileges only for Oracle agent. Okay, and yeah, one questions. if suppose we have operating system authentication and password file authentication, so which will come first? Answer me, please. OS. Okay. OS. Okay. Yes, correct. Operating system authentication take precedence over password file authentication if you meet the requirement for operating system authentication. Then even if you use a password file, you will be authenticated by operating system authentication. So your choice is influenced by whether you intend to administer your database locally on the same system where the database reside, or whether you want to intend to administer many different database from single remote client. Okay, so you have the choice of that. So to connect Oracle database as a privileged user over a non-secure connection, you must be authenticated by a password file. So when using password file authentication, the database uses a password file to keep track of database username that have been granted the sys DBA, sys OPER, sys backup, sys DG, and sys KM privileges. Okay, rack is not there. Sys rack is not there. Okay, and as we know, we had local connection, we have remote connection. So you can connect in two ways. If the database has a password file and you have been granted a system privileges, then you can connect and be authenticated by password file. If the server is not using a password file, or if you have not been granted a system privileges and are therefore not in the password file, then you can use operating system authentication. Okay, on most operating system authentication for database administrator involve placing the operating system username of the database administrator in a special group. Which group we have when we install the database software? We create that group, right? So tell me, what is the name of that group? O install. Okay, and another one. Perfect. What is your name, buddy? Because your name is not showing. Sudhagar. Okay, thanks, Sudhagar. So, suppose user in the OSDBA group are granted the SysDBA administrative privileges. Similarly, the OSOPER group is used to grant SysOPER administrative privileges to the user. OS Backup DBA group is used to grant sys backup administrative privileges. OSDG DBA group is used to grant sysdg privileges. OSKM DBA group is used to grant syskm administrative privileges. OSRAG DBA group is used to grant sysrag privileges. Okay. Now using operating system authentication. So we required operating system group, and we required a planning to operating system authentication, and we require a connection using operating system authentication. So these things we should do. So let me show you the operating system groups. So this, so OSDBA is has Linux DBA group. Okay, and OS Oper we had Oper group. OS Backup DBA we have Backup DBA group. OS DG DBA we had DG DBA. OS KM DBA we have KM DBA. OS RAG DBA we have RAG DBA group. So operating system group and a Linux user group. So these are the means connection with those. Okay. So please remember that. So Oracle Universal Installer uses this default name actually. So you can override them if you have multiple instances on the same computer in different Oracle home. Suppose you have two instances on Linux host and OSDBA group for the first instance might be DBA1, and for the second instance you can say DBA2. Okay, so like that you can differentiate. Got my point? But on Windows, default user names cannot be changed. Okay, so home name placeholder enable you to have different user group name when you have multiple instance running on the same host Windows computer. So if you are a member of the OSDBA group, you specify as sysdba when you connect to the database. Okay, and then you can perform all the sysdba administrative privileges task. And if you are OS Oper group, then you specify as sysoper. Okay. If you are OSDBA group, you specify as sys backup. If you have OSDGA DBA group, you specify as sysdg. If you have OSKM group, you specify as syskSM. If you have OSRAG DBA group, you specify as a sysrag privileges. Okay, and if you are not member of these operating system group and you want to connect as a sysdba, sysoper, sysbackup, sysdg, syskm, and sysrag, so can you connect, guys? Yes, perfect. You will get an error. Now preparing to use operating system authentications. So DBA, as I know, can be authenticated by operating system rather than database username and password. So to enable operating system authentication, you create an operating system account for the user and add that account to the appropriate operating system defined group. Okay. So what is that? So connecting using operating system authentication. So user can connect to the database using operating system authentication. You can use operating system authentication by performing these action. So like this: connect slash sysdba, sysoper, sysbackup, sysdg, syskm, like that. Okay, and for Windows platform, you need to connect like this: connect slash net service name, sysdbs, overseas backup, like that. So both the client computer and the database host computer must be on Windows domain. Okay, and sysrag is for Oracle agent. Okay. Now, password file authentication. So you can use password file authentication for Oracle database instance and for Oracle ASM instance. Okay, already I said that when you are using for database, it is called database password file. When you are saying using for ASM instance, it is calling for ASM instance password file. Okay, and preparing to use password file authentication, you must create the password file and you have to set remote underscore login underscore password file initialization parameter and grant the privileges. Okay, and connecting using password file authentication, you can connect by locally or remotely. by connect command, and by default password are case sensitive, so please remember that. Okay. Now preparing to use password file authentication. So first we need to set the parameter remote login password file, and if password file is not created, then you can create by Aura pwd utility. So you have the syntax Aura pwd file is equal to file name format equals to 12.2, like that. Okay, so we will see later on how to create a password file and how to do that. So when you invoke the DBCA as a part of Oracle database installation process, and when you are creating a database through DBCA, so password file is created or not? Please answer. Another question. Yeah, guys. When you are creating a database through DBCA, password file is created or not? Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes, it is created. But the administrative privileges like sysbackup, sysdg, and syskm are not supported in the password file when you are using format is equal to legacy argument, and 12.2 is the default for the format command line argument, and sysrat is not supported. Okay, so the administrative privileges can be granted to external user only when the file is created with format equals to 12.2 argument, and it also enable SSL and SSL authentication for administrative user. When you create a password file that is stored in an Oracle ASM group, it can be shared among the multiple Oracle database instance. Okay, so the password file is not duplicated on each Oracle database instance. This is another interview question. Okay. Now, second thing you set remote login password file parameter to exclusive, and this is the default. And this is static parameter, so you required restart the database. Okay, so please remember that. And connect to the database as sys user. And if the user do not already exist in the database, then create the user and assign in a password file, and grant the sysdba, sysoper, sysbackup, sysdg, or syskm privileges. Like that, grant sysdba to my dba is the user. Okay, so by this you can enable the connection as a sysdba, sysoper, sysbackup, sysdg, and syskm. Okay, now how to connect password file authentication? Simple. You will say connect username as sysdba, like that. This one, this one. Okay, so operating, as I said, operating system authentication takes precedence over password file, especially especially if you are a member of the appropriate operating system group like OSDBA, OSOBA, and you connect the appropriate clause like sysdb, then you will be connected with that privileges. Okay, regardless the username and password that you are specifying. If you are not in the operating system group and you are not in the password file and you are attempting to connect, your connection will fail. Okay, now data utilities. So data utilities we have SQL loader. So SQL loader, we know that it is used both by database administrator and by other user of Oracle database, and it loads data from standard operating system file like text file or C data format. And export import utilities, we have old export import exp imp, and the new utility which is called as data pump, which started from 10G onwards, and which has more good feature as compared to old export import utilities. So we prefer to use data pump in terms of when exporting the cables, when exporting the schemas, when exporting many things. Okay, so we will see later on. And how to create and maintain a password file, we will see later when we go for the practicals. And what are the Aura PW syntax and command line arguments? Like in Aura PWD, we can use file, we can use force, we can use ASM, we can use DB unique name, we can use format, and we can use sys, we can use sysbackup, we can use sysdg. These are the arguments. We can use system, we can use delete, we can use input underscore file, we can use describe. So these arguments, we will see what these arguments will do and when we can use these arguments. Then creating a password file, we will use Aura PWD. Okay, so that practically we will see. And how to share and disable password file. So for that purpose, what should we do? So we will see that also. So what should we do if we want to disable and enable? Can anyone tell me? If suppose I have my password file and I don't want to use that, so what should you do? Anybody? SQLite.aura me you add one parameter, none. Okay, remove concern group from the user. Okay, remote login file to be static. Okay, like DBA group, Ronak. Okay, sir, we should use only none clause in remote underscore login underscore password file parameter. So it will behave password file does not exist. Got it? By default, it is exclusive. And if you are using shared clause, then password file can be shared by multiple database running on the same server or multiple instance of an Oracle RAG database. Then, sorry, and when it is stored on an operating system. Okay, if we are using a shared clause, then can be modified. No, when you are using shared clause, it will be read only, so you cannot modify. This is another answer. And also, you cannot specify shared for Oracle ASM password file. Okay, this is another interview question. Clear, guys? And starting with 12.2, authentication for the sys user happen only with the password file and not using the data dictionary. So this is another interview question, guys. And what is the view to see the privileges of the password file? Whose user has privileges of these? What is the view? Can anyone tell me? Hello guys, V dollar prepare perfect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Correct. V dollar PW file underscore user. Users S missing, buddy, but it's okay. So V dollar PW file underscore user views contains information about the user that have granted the system administrative privileges. Okay, and if you want to revoke removing a database password file, so you can set initialization to none. So after removing this file, only the user who can be authenticated by operating system can perform sysdba, sysopus, sysbackup, sysdg, and syskm database administrative operations. So this is another important point for that. Okay, clear, guys? Okay, so yeah, that's it for today. We are in time. So just let me stop the recording, and then if you have any questions, any queries, any doubt, you can ask. Any suggestions you want, you can. Okay.